Have you heard about the 2018 study that showed half of prenatal vitamins tested had unacceptable levels of heavy metals? No? Well, now you have. I'm Kat, mother of 3 and founder of Ritual, the company making traceability the new standard in the supplement industry. I remember staring at my prenatal vitamins and finding all these things I was trying to avoid. High amounts of heavy metals, synthetic colorants, and unnecessary ingredients. So, at 4 months pregnant, I quit my job and started Ritual because I believe that all women deserve to know what they're putting in their bodies and why. I'm so proud of our prenatal vitamin. The ingredients are 100% traceable, it's third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals, and recently received the Purity Award from the Clean Label Project. You see, we trace like a mother because, let's be honest, no one cares quite like a mother. But don't just take my word for it. Trace for yourself with 25% off at ritual.com/podcast.
A new season of Bridgerton is here. And with it, a new season of Bridgerton, the official podcast. I'm your host, Gabby Collins, and this season, we are bringing fans even deeper into the ton. Watch season 3 of the Shondaland series on Netflix. Then fall in love all over again by listening to Bridgerton, the official podcast, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to catch a new episode every Thursday.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning weekly podcast dedicated to personal development. Whether you're looking for ways to shift your mindset or seeking more fulfillment in your life, we've got you covered. Join me as we dive into captivating stories and research-backed ideas that have empowered me and others to lead lives with more clarity and intention. Everyday Better, making growth an everyday practice. Listen to Everyday Better on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. I cannot believe that we are almost in July, that I am about to talk about the energies in July, and here it is that we are at the midway point of the year. It's one of those years where a lot has happened, but it feels like time is at a standstill, so it's fast-paced, and then it's not. Sometimes things drag, and I know that many of you resonate with that because it seems like since the pandemic, time and energy and our recollection of time feels and is different. I feel like that's just the new pace, the new order of things, where it's like, did that happen last week? Oh my gosh, no, that was 3 months ago. And you know, it's funny, like with my numerology guidebook for 2024, one of the biggest suggestions I have, because this is something that has always helped me, is I go back through months in years and look back, whether I'm looking back at a journal, but like the numerology guidebook, I always suggest to people, if this is something you're curious about learning and it's midway through the year and you're purchasing the numerology guidebook, you're right on time because you can go back retrospectively, January, February, and you can start doing the work in there, the journal prompts, or recalling things that were going on at that point in time in your memory. And there's something that really happens on a neurological and a cognitive level, but on a psychic and intuitive level, it's very helpful to recognize or remember. So recognize, remember, you're basically pulling and correlating things, and then you can do it prospectively. I mean, I do that. I know the numerology. I already am pretty aware of astrology that will be happening in the months ahead. I mean, hello, let's be honest. I go years out because I'm curious. This is stuff that lights my fire. Ooh, when are these transits happening? When is Uranus changing signs? When is Saturn changing signs? And I'll look at where it's hitting my chart and what's happening, even if I'm looking at 2025, 2026. And this is not about living in the past or tripping into the future. It's about getting very present and looking at how my life has transpired, how events have transpired, and then where I'm going in the future and how my now can be best utilized. And that may be a great place to start as we look at the energy of July. Where is your power in July? now. Like being very present. And the energy in July, it's a little bit elusive. If it feels liminal and murky, yet driven and directed simultaneously, you're probably going to be in the vibe because, first of all, the sun is in Cancer. And happy birthday to all you Cancers out there. We love our Cancers in the zodiac, the nurturers, the caregivers, the people who just show up and know how to beautifully manage life, things. You know, I always think of Cancerian energy as the one who jumps in the midst of a family crisis and knows how to delegate and multitask. And while they're such deep feelers, they have such high EQ, they don't always know how to articulate it or share it vulnerably with other people because they can hold space. The wise one can hold space for others or really sense and feel things, but they may not always reveal that to you unless they feel very comfortable to show you themselves. But that energy, that Cancerian energy, is so good at jumping in the middle of a crisis or a difficult situation and getting everything like intuitively and practically managed oftentimes. And what happens with that energy, because I've seen it in myself, and I have a Cancer rising, but I also have two very Cancerian sisters, and they exhibit these qualities and all the Cancer energy that shows up heavily in people's astrological charts. But they jump in, they do, and then it's like emotional whiplash. You know, whether it's 2 months later feeling the exhaustion, 2 days later feeling the exhaustion, or it's shoved down and the trauma comes out, 10 years later. That's one of the things about Cancer is it just does so well in damage control, crisis control. I think of heightened Cancer energy as being an exceptional dispatcher, for the 911 emergency service. Like they can just dispatch and mitigate crisis, but when are they taking time to really feel and heal or be taking care of themselves? So remember that that's where the sun is right now, and we've certainly got other planets in Cancer, but also this month we're in a 6-month in numerology. And if there is an astro numero code that goes hand in hand, the 6 and Cancer, they are very close to one and the same energy. And you know how we think of Cancer as the mother energy? Well, if you draw a 6 on your piece of paper and you use your imagination, it's like a pregnant woman. So there is a feminine energy to the 6. And of course, we have Cancer males and we have 6 males in numerology. My husband is a 6 life path. So I know how that trait exhibits in a male. And it's very much, I want to show up, I want to take care of, I want to make sure you have everything you need. And one of the most beautiful qualities I see in a lot of 6 males, and I think I've shared this before and I laugh every time I say it because it shows me where I have a little bit of fine tuning to do in my attitude. But whenever I ask my husband, oh, hey, will you bring me some water from the kitchen? Or, oh, wait, hold on, can you pause the television for this? He always says, okay, or yeah, you bet. Whereas when he asks me to grab something, my natural response is, oh, can't you get that yourself? And I don't say that, but that is my very first thought of, oh, can't you just do it yourself? And it's not that I don't have time or I'm ugly or don't want to be of service, but I don't naturally say, no problem. Oh, sure. And he does. And that's one thing about the 6 is the 6 is very accommodating. It wants to nurture and support, and so does Cancer energy. And it's one of the most beautiful traits. And if you have a strong Cancer in your life, whether you're a Cancer or, you have a sibling or a parent or a child that's a Cancer, notice those traits in them, but also use your awareness to step in and say, hey, what can I do for you today? Or I just made you dinner tonight without them asking. Cancers, a lot of times, it's like you just do it for them without asking. You just kind of surprise them like, oh, I already got that taken care of. Oh, I already took the trash out. And I know I'm giving some blanket statements here, but these are the more hardwired innate behaviors of giving. And the 6 energy, so if you know someone who has a 6 attitude number or a 6 life path, they can hold a lot of those characteristics. And probably the biggest rule of thumb, and as we take it through July, please remember this. If you need to write it down on a Post-it note, do it. Did I put my oxygen mask on myself today? And then go out into the world. And your oxygen mask may be 5 minutes saying your intentions, prayers, and meditations in the morning, or having a cup of coffee by yourself for 5 or 10 minutes. Or it may be in the evening, sitting outside and just relaxing with your pets or your kids outside and just having some decompression time, but just sitting and relaxing. Wherever your oxygen mask can be put on, I would urge you to identify it this month. Where do I nurture myself? And a lot of people are challenged in figuring that out. What does self-nurture look like? Self-compassion is one thing, but self-nurture, caring for yourself, being gentle and kind and loving to yourself, what does that look like for you? And how can you practice it routinely and prioritize it this month? Because I will tell you, when you combine the 6 and the 8, because we're in an 8 universal year, that combination is emotional as all get out. And it's fueled by emotion, either consciously or unconsciously. Like, it's a very touchy-feely energy, and we can tend to wear our heart on our sleeves. So really taking criticism, rejection, all of those things more deeply, more to heart, so to speak. So be mindful of yourself and your feelings, not just your emotions. Emotions are one thing. That's how we put names to stuff and we identify it in a very intelligent, intellectual way. The feeling body is really where you're experiencing it in your body. Oh, I'm feeling exhausted today, or I'm feeling sad. So use your F word this month. Well, you can use them both, the feeling word and the other one. Like, if you need to use both F words, do what you need to do. But really use, how do I feel in this moment? And this is a great month, no joke, to get out get out that chart that has the range of emotions on it, the 100 different kinds of emotions, and say, oh, that's discontent, or, oh, that's lethargy. Whatever it may be, identify some of your emotions and then go to your body to say, where do I feel this? Do I feel it in my neck? Do I feel it in my jaw? Am I feeling it in my lower back, my ankle? The body is so intelligent, and this is such an incredible energy to become very hyper cognizant of yourself, your mind, body, spirit. And beautifully, Saturn just retrograded is retrograding, at the very end of June in 19 degrees of Pisces. And on July 2nd, Neptune will retrograde at 29 degrees of Pisces, the very last degree of Pisces, and Neptune rules Pisces. So all that water energy, Cancer is a water sign, Pisces is the deep water sign of the subconscious. It is very what I call punctuated in the energy field, that watery, emotional, intuitive, psychic, collective energy. So it is through your physical body, your feeling body, and your sensations where you can tap into deeper intuition right now. And with Saturn and Neptune both essentially just hovering, because they move slowly anyway, and when they're retrograding, they're reorienting in their orbits. So they're moving at a very, very slow pace. So they're just hovering in those spaces. And then we have the Cancer new moon, which is on the 5th of June, where the sun and the moon will both be in Cancer. Mercury will have already moved into Leo, but Venus will also be in Cancer. So we've got Sun, Moon, and Venus in Cancer, and Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces standing still. So the new moon, and I think I just said that it was the 5th of June. See, that's how time is. And I'm very grounded right now, but I said the 5th of June, the 5th of July. But the new moon is on the 5th of July, guys and gals. So the 5th of July is the new moon, and that's when Sun, Moon, Venus are in Cancer, and then Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces. And you see, that's the watery energy. It's like, oh, I can see it all, I can feel it all, but I can't say it. I can't say it. That is probably the best interpretation of that energy. And so it's elusive, it's intuitive, it's watery. Pay attention to your dreams. I would really prioritize your sleep around then. And a great trick in wanting to remember your dreams is to ask to remember your dreams. By the way, when you go to bed at night, after you have settled into the bed, say, hey, soul, hey, higher self, whatever I'm working on in the astral plane, in my dream state, help me to be cognitive of it in the morning when I wake up so I can better understand what I'm processing, what I'm working through. Or it could be precognitive, and be mindful if you ask for precognitive dreams, unless you're used to having dreams that really do allude to future events. And there are a lot of people who have very precognitive dreams, but most of us usually have dreams where we are working through scenarios in our subconscious. And my biggest rule of thumb with dream interpretation that I have found to be the most effective and clear on an intuitive level and helping me drudge up stuff from my subconscious is to recognize how I feel in a dream. So for instance, the last handful of nights, my dreams have been very immediate and emergent. I'm always in transit. So I'm in and out of cars or trains or vehicles, and I'm going from one place to another, and it's very rushed. And I'm trying to kind of keep pace and organize, and I'm dealing with people. And then I'm also doing some timeline jumping. So it gets really metaphysical and multiverse and like a Marvel comedy, like not a Marvel comic. So that's going on. But if I take away some of the multiverse stuff that's happening, the quantum stuff in my dream state that I'm very, very aware of, if I boil it down to how I'm feeling in those dreams is like it's nonstop. I'm getting everything taken care of. I'm okay. I figured it all out. But every time I complete one thing, there's something else that appears on my plate. It's like I can't just get a break. It's not frightening. And then people are showing up in my dreams that I know. I'm remembering who's in the dreams. But my big question is, how did I feel in that moment? What am I feeling about this? And someone shared this with me, maybe 10 years ago, and I thought it was brilliant, is you pay attention in your dreams to the feelings of all of the people and objects in the dream. Meaning, let's say you're having a scary dream, and you walk into a dark house, and it's creaking, and the lights are flickering, and then a cat screeches out of the dark. I'm just painting this picture for you. You see, okay, well, how did I feel? I felt disturbed. I felt uneasy. I felt like something was following me. I was looking over my shoulder. And then you say, well, how did the house feel in the dream? What was the mood of the house? It was dark. It was run down. It wasn't taken care of. It was abandoned. How did the cat feel? The cat was frightened and alarmed and on the defense. It was attacking. So right there, just in those three pieces, I can write down all those emotions, and those would be different aspects of my unconscious and my subconscious reflecting emotional and energetic and psychic processing in the dream state. But if I were to write down all those moods, those feelings and sentiments, how could I say, okay, am I experiencing this in my life? Or, wow, did I think about whatever is going on at work from this perspective? Or this stress I'm having in XYZ relationship? What is it showing me? Or what is it revealing from my unconscious that maybe my conscious mind hadn't been able to articulate? So this is a great time, especially the first couple of weeks of July, really to pay attention to your dreams and dream interpretation. And again, just ask to remember those when you go to bed at night. And a lot of times I do something like ritualistic with that if I'm working on remembering dreams, and I will do it for about 3 weeks in a row, almost to train that muscle. If I'm wanting to pay attention and work with my dreams, every single night I will do the same thing, and I'll take a sip of water right next to my bed because it's watery energy, it's elusive, it's the subconscious. Water is highly conductive. I'll take a sip of my water and I'll say, hey soul, hey higher self, may I remember my dreams and capture them in this water when I wake up. And then when I wake up and I look over and there's a glass of water, the first thing I do is take a sip, and then I sit there with what I'm remembering from my dream. And it's funny because sometimes I will remember and remember clearly, and other times I'm like, gosh, I know all this stuff was happening, but I can't remember a darn thing. So be patient with yourself and play with it. But I would encourage you to use the water as a conductor and almost it's like a microphone or a tape recorder. So use the water, the glass of water, take your sip, communicate with the water, go into your dreams, go to sleep, wake up, immediately turn to the water, take a sip, and then marinate for a few minutes. Get a dream journal out, of course, because that's the most helpful things, because you remember unless it's a dream that really sticks with you, 2 minutes later, it's gone. I'm grasping for it and I can't find it. So the dream journal immediately, even in that groggy state, can be highly psychic and really helpful in creating some clarity and getting some puzzle pieces assimilated and put together from your unconscious. So I'd encourage you, and especially around this new moon, this Cancer new moon. Cancer new moons are such a rich energy for intimacy. I think the biggest thing that I feel in Cancer moons, and with all this water in the sky, it's summertime in the Northern Hemisphere, but making time around the 5th of July, so the 4th, 5th, 6th, those days, to do something intimate, whether it's cooking dinner at home with your spouse, or sitting by the pool with your children in the evening, or you are just curling up on the sofa and reading a book, doing something that feels nurturing, comforting, and intimate, but also creates an element of safety and feeling safe, feeling comfortable in your own skin. So I would do something very ritualistic if you want to set intentions for this new moon, but I would create an environment of comfort, nurture, and security in order to set your intentions or marinate or just find your sense of peace and ease, happiness, just feeling comfortable in your own skin. And remembering how you can practice self-nurture, not just self-compassion, but self-nurture. And be mindful, because with all this Cancerian energy and with the energy of the 6 and the 8 combination, it can be very micromanaging, a little bit paranoid. And I know that might sound like a funny interpretation of it, but I find that the energy of the 6 and the 8 is very task-oriented in a way. It's wanting to get things done and get things accomplished and push forward. The 8 is more visionary and the 6 is more, okay, what are the details? Let's get down to business. So the 6 has kind of a grounded in the moment, and the 8 is like, yes, big plans, big schemes. So it's a fabulous combination of momentum. But remember what I said in the beginning, where is your power? Your power is now. It's about not tripping too much back into the past. So regret, remorse, and resentment, watch out for those, because there is an element where the 6 doesn't have an easy forgetter. Meaning, if it gets its feelings hurt, and Cancers can feel this way too, it carries it in its body and its heart for a long time. And it's not that it's a begrudging energy. It's more like, yeah, but I really felt hurt, and that's probably going to stick with me. So this is such a good moon to me for forgiveness. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to pick up the phone and have an amends or a forgiveness conversation with someone, but I would also use this time to think back to massive traumas or hurts in your life that really impacted you. They stunted your growth or impacted the trajectory of your life. And I would nostalgically or meditatively think back to those areas and see where you can do this. This is a fun trick, and it kind of blows my mind and my heart wide open.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives you access to all. Every audience, live conversations, trusted influencers, and the insights and data you need to grow. iHeartMedia is your access company. Go to iHeartResults.com for more.
Hey, it's Perez Hilton from the Perez Hilton Podcast, keeping you in the know. Here's a bit of our show. Ellen DeGeneres was in Los Angeles doing stand-up, and she addressed the controversy. She says that amidst the toxic workplace scandal, that she became, quote, the most hated person in America. All right, talk about exaggerating, please, Ellen.
Well, I've always been Team Ellen.
Me too.
Well, no, you weren't.
That's not true.
You were
Yes.
like taking the side of those crybabies that
Yes.
worked for her because she told them they were terrible at their job because they probably were.
No. Are Taylor and Travis's personalities too different to be compatible in the long term?
Right.
And you said, oh, they've got similar families and this and that. I'm like, yeah. I get it. Opposites attract. To a point. If you're too different, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Listen to the Perez Hilton Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Hey there, I'm Dr. Maya Shankar, and I'm a scientist who studies human behavior. Many of us have experienced a moment in our lives that changes everything. A moment that instantly divides our life into a before and an after. On my podcast, A Slight Change of Plans, I talk to people about navigating these very moments.
The last couple of years has been the hardest season of our marriage for sure. I'm surprised our marriage survived it. I think we both are. I think we both were barely holding on. Nothing compares to how hard this is.
Their stories are full of candor, awe, and hard-won wisdom. And you'll hear from scientists who teach us how we can be more resilient in the face of change.
True behavior change is really identity change. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
Listen to A Slight Change of Plans on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do y'all remember how I shared it? If you listen to the podcast, you might remember this, but I talked about me having a really traumatic experience in first grade, and I had a very abusive teacher, and it was, for a little first grader, it was a whole lot. And I look back and it's just nonsensical and it's sad the way that it unfolded. Well, it was really funny. I did what I'm about to share with you to practice the other day because I don't hold on to it. I don't have any resentment. I mean, it happened. It's just part of the story of my life, and it's been so long. And even though I am in a total place of acceptance and actually even well-wishing for that woman, I mean, that's just where I am today, right? But I was driving the other day and I thought about that. It just popped into my mind. And immediately where I went was, gosh, if I wouldn't have had that tragic and terrible and abusive situation in first grade, then I may not have had the most amazing, when I had to repeat first grade, because I had to repeat first grade as a result, amazing second first grade teacher, Donna Helm, and that was her name. And she was the most loving, nurturing. She brought me back to life and my little spirit and my confidence. And she was aware and hands-on. I mean, it was so divinely orchestrated that I look back at the chain reaction of things that were either divinely orchestrated or set in motion as a result of that tragic experience. And there were so many beautiful things that came out of it. So I was thinking about that, and I was smiling as I was thinking about the original first grade teacher, and I was going, gosh, thank you for the lessons you taught me. Wow, thank you for that experience, because look at what abundance grew from that over time, and how much appreciation, and how my heart just opens and softens. and that I was actually saying, I sure hope she's had a rich life. So think about maybe doing that this month, whether you're driving or journaling, and thinking back to really painful experiences or circumstances or massive hurts. And can you go back and look at the series of events after you walked through and whenever your healing happened, whether it was 10 years later, I think about losing my dad at 18 and how traumatic that was. And that was 18. I did not really begin to heal or grieve or process until I was 32 years old. So in that time frame, life was happening, but there was so much repressed pain and trauma and confusion and lots of other things. But it took me that long. So you can even look back to bigger events in your life that may have had a really difficult journey. But then when the healing happened or the growth happened or the willingness to heal or to forgive or accept happened, were there miracles and expansion and growth that happened? And then can you say, oh, this had meaning. Oh, this makes sense to me now. Wow, that was really tough. But wow, if it wouldn't have happened that way, I might not have this sort of courage or this sort of strength or this sort of, amazing capacity to love or be compassionate or empathic. I encourage you to think about that in this Cancerian energy with this new moon. And like I said, it's so psychic and intuitive. And I was referencing the numerology guidebook because if you're just working with the energy of this year, there's enough material for me to work with, not needing to go back to first grade and grab material, but that's just how my mind works. But this year, the energy has been so erratic, and it's about to accelerate differently and more, where our intuitive abilities and capacity are needing to really become second nature. I saw a friend last night. I hadn't seen her in a few weeks, but the last time I saw her, she was telling me she was dating, and she was telling me how she goes, Amanda, I went on this date with this guy from Tinder or whatever she did, and she said, I knew in my gut there were all these red flags right in the beginning, but I kept making these excuses in my mind. No, he's going to be fine. No, you're just making this up. She said, I kept fighting with my gut instinct and intuition. And she said, before we even went to have coffee or whatever they did, she had the gut instincts like, I don't think this is the right thing. But she was like, but I went anyway. And then I get there and there's these red flags. And then, of course, she went on like 3 or 4 more dates with him. Like it went on. Like we know the story, right? And then it just ends up and he's a wackadoo. So she shares that with me and she goes, I got to start listening to my intuition. I'm really intuitive. And I'm like, yeah, of course you are. Everybody is really intuitive. It just has to do with articulating it and flexing that muscle and then utilizing it confidently or practicing it, because we always want to use our will and say, no, my gut is telling me this, but I'm going to make it different. That's the voice. It's like the superhero in my mind that's really the villain. And if we think about villains in so many stories, they don't usually start out bad. They just end up getting hurt, or there's some kind of pain, and then the evil takes over and they think they're doing it for a greater good or a greater cause, and it's very distorted. So sometimes that's how intuition works, is it's about flexing those muscles. Anyway, so I saw her last night and she said, I am just so intuitive now, and I am recognizing these red flags and certain things. And she said, it's something in me that's drawn to these kinds of men, these kinds of people. And she says, I'm doing the work around that now because I seem to be drawing the same patterns. She says, but I'm a little quicker to say no or not be tempted to just go out with somebody because I think it's going to be different or I think it's going to be better. She said, I'm just practicing some patience and I'm trusting my intuition to let it be and do my healing work and allow the universe to orchestrate things in a more divine and cohesive fashion. And she didn't say divine and cohesive. That's me saying that. But it relates to what I said in the last podcast. How am I supposed to surrender things to God, surrender things to the universe when the universe feels so wacky and out of step right now? And it's like we take our will back and then we surrender it and then we take it back. This is such a pivotal time in the year to get very, very clear and true with ourselves. That's why I was saying, where's your power? Your power is now. Where is your intuition? Your intuition is now. It's about slowing down just a bit, cultivating a nurturing and intimate connection with ourselves. And again, you can use your metaphysical tools. You can work with your dreams. You can do your journaling. You can pull oracle cards, but doing something that is helping you ritualistically and consistently have a dialogue with yourself will help you create greater cohesion in your dialogue with the universe. And I know that the universe right now, the energy field of the collective, is very confusing. And that's why our own point of attraction, strengthening our inner voice and building that muscle is so important. And I've shared about how if you want to just on a very basic yet effective level practice your intuition, when you get behind a car, okay, are they going to stay in front of me for a while? Are they going to take a right or a left? Or when I go into the grocery store, is this car going to be parked next to me when I get out? Yes or no? And then you go with it. Those little intuitive exercises that are seemingly inconsequential, it's like they add money to your savings account, your intuitive bank account that starts to build a muscle. But more than anything, it's this awareness to cultivate that muscle that actually strengthens it in a way. So whether it's the exercise, horse or cart, do it all. Like, this is a time to really listen to your intuition, even if you don't like it, or it's not exactly what you think you want or you think you need, and practice a little patience or reservation.
Hey, it's Perez Hilton from the Perez Hilton Podcast, keeping you in the know. Here's a bit of our show. Ellen DeGeneres was in Los Angeles doing stand-up, and she addressed the controversy. She says that amidst the toxic workplace scandal, that she became, quote, the most hated person in America. All right, talk about exaggerating, please, Ellen.
Well, I've always been Team Ellen.
Me too.
Well, no, you weren't.
That's not true.
You were like taking the side of those crybabies that worked for her because she told them they were terrible at their job because they probably were.
No. Are Taylor and Travis's personalities too different to be compatible in the long term?
Right.
And you said, they've got similar families and this and that. I'm like, yeah. I get it. Opposites attract. To a point. If you're too different, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Listen to the Perez Hilton Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Hey there, I'm Dr. Maya Shankar, and I'm a scientist who studies human behavior. Many of us have experienced a moment in our lives that changes everything. A moment that instantly divides our life into a before and an after. On my podcast, A Slight Change of Plans, I talk to people about navigating these very moments.
The last couple of years has been the hardest season of our marriage for sure. I'm surprised our marriage survived it. I think we both are. I think we both were barely holding on. Nothing compares to how hard this is.
Their stories are full of candor, awe, and hard-won wisdom. And you'll hear from scientists who teach us how we can be more resilient in the face of change.
True behavior change is really identity change. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
Listen to A Slight Change of Plans on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When the Taliban banned music in Afghanistan, millions were plunged into silence. Radios were smashed, cassettes burned. You could be beaten or jailed or killed for breaking the rules. And yet, Afghans did it anyway. This is the story of how a group of people brought music back to Afghanistan by creating their own version of American Idol. The danger they endured.
They said my head should be cut off.
The joy they brought to the nation.
You're free completely. No one is there to destroy you.
I'm John Legend. Listen to Afghan Star on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Another thing with this energy, especially because we have this astro-numero code that is very, very exacerbated, so to speak. It's compounded, meaning the energy of the sixth, the Cancer energy that we have going on, the sun in Cancer for most of the month until we pop into Leo season, is really paying attention to enabling and codependency. So it's a good time to look at where maybe you're not taking responsibility for yourself and you're taking more responsibility for other people, whether it's getting things done for them because it's like easier for you to just do it rather than ask or delegate, or you're controlling and you like it done a certain way, so you just take it on yourself. That creates a tremendous amount of exhaustion and overwhelm. And if I know anything about the sixth energy, it can feel extremely exhausted, emotionally overwhelmed, and overburdened. It's like an emotional sludge at its worst. And guess what that does? First of all, it triggers this layer of self-pity. Oh, I have to get everything done. Nobody helps me. Oh my gosh, well, if it's going to get done, it's got to be done by me. Like all of that stuff that we all play at different times. So it creates self-pity and victimization. And then when it's unreconciled, or we don't say something or just relinquish our control and delegate or ask for help, because both the sixth and the Cancer are not the best at asking for help. Like they're just not. Sorry guys, y'all aren't, and you know it. If you are good at it, hallelujah, you are enlightened. I'm not even joking when I say that. When the sixth learns to say, I'm struggling, I need help, or you know what, I've got too much on my plate, I don't think I can handle that for you, and not be afraid that it's not going to get done well, or then you're not going to be loved or liked, or somebody's going to be disappointed. I mean, it's all of that deep emotional stuff, but all of that burden, and then it creates victimization and self-pity, and then what happens afterwards is freaking anger, because it's like the self-pity just simmers until finally it starts to boil and the lid blows off. It's kind of like when you're boiling pasta and it overflows. You know, there's that weird like temperature thing you have to do. You put the pasta in and then it, you know, when it boils over onto the stove, and it's the worst to clean up. Pasta water just sticks and is gross. That's what I think about with the energy of the sixth and Cancer. When unrecognized, it gets exhausted because it can really sustain a lot. The sixes are incredible in terms of what they can handle under pressure. They have high pain tolerances. They are resilient, but at some point they're just exhausted because they can take on so much, and they take on so much psychically, intuitively, and emotionally. They're like sponges, and they're strong, but they're also inside sensitive and need their nurture and care. So I'm bringing all of this to your attention because the shadow side of both the astrology and the numerology this month are a lot of burnout, like complete and utter exhaustion, anger, feeling like you're totally helpless, like nobody's going to help you. Nobody knows what you're going through. I'm so stuck. Life is unfair. I just can't. I mean, that is like the pendulum swinging the other way. And instead of getting to that point, you know, and if you do, gosh, it's okay, because sometimes we need those breaking points in order to break through. And not to be trite, but I know that sometimes I just have to completely break when I am unable to really recognize what's going on with me or have it reflected back healthfully, because I'm in my own self-will. And this is a really great time to be a little bit slower, a little bit more intentional, and very present with your self-nurture and self-care. And the last tip on that is communicating how you feel. Gosh, I'm really exhausted today. I think I'm not going to add this onto my plate. Like, this is a good month not to add onto your plate. It's actually a good month to subtract from your plate. And I have plenty going on in the month of July. But what I need to remember, even as I'm talking to you, and so I'm showing you and expressing to you how I would process this, is I know what's on my schedule. I know what's on my plate in July, deadlines and certain things. I know I have some travel plans. I have some things to look forward to. And then there's life, right? I might need a new set of tires or, or the refrigerator might go out, like that stuff. We got to, we plan for the unexpected. Like there's life that happens in the midst of that. This is the kind of energy where if adding coffee with a friend or going to lunch or all those folks out there who work multiple jobs, because there's a lot of you out there that are like badass multitaskers and you're hustlers and you work multiple jobs. This is the kind of month when somebody offers you, a side gig that you really get clear, okay, am I doing this side gig because I'm afraid I'm not going to have any money and I absolutely need it? Or am I doing it because I really want to and I have the time to do it? And it'll feel good. Or am I just going to be okay by saying no, but I'll catch you on the next round? So it's a good month as far as, we did a lot of, hopefully, because I did a lot of looking at old fears and fear patterning in the month and throughout the month of June. And I saw some pretty wickedly amazing breakthroughs in my psyche and in my subconscious. And then my body started detoxing it in a multitude of ways, which always signals to me when my body is in some sort of tension or turmoil that I've probably already done the mental and the emotional and spiritual work. My body is usually the last to process because it's dense. It's the last to catch up, to iron out the kinks. And I always smile. Like when I wake up and my neck is hurting or something goes on, I'm like, oh yeah, something shifted in my perspective. And I usually can correlate that stuff. It's just how I interpret things and then how I give myself grace. Okay, well then I guess I need to go to the chiropractor or get some acupuncture and go take care of that rather than just saying it'll be fine and just take my Tylenol. And then 3 weeks later, it's worse. So that's the other thing this month is if you do have an ailment or you are dealing with some kind of chronic health challenge that has been bothering you, take care of yourself this month. Really let yourself rest and get a little bit of a retreat and respite. So really being mindful of your mind, body, spirit connection, being present, your sense of intimacy, and also home and family. Whether it's friendships for you, it's a spouse and children, it's your pets, wherever it shows up, spend time with the people who you want to spend time with. Prioritize enjoyable, relaxing, quality time. And certainly when the sun moves into Leo, we'll have a more extroverted energy. Just so you know, Mercury moves into Leo on the 2nd, Venus moves into Leo on the 11th, and then the sun will move into Leo on the 22nd. It's like stair-stepping of Leo energy coming in. Mercury, the mind will think more like a Leo, which is proud and strong and dignified and courageous and wickedly generous and heart-centered. And then Venus, Venus loves to be in Leo. They're such lovers, like passionate lovers. My stepdaughter, her Venus is in Leo, and usually they're pretty sexy people too. I'll say that, like males who have a Venus in Leo, women that have a Venus in Leo. I mean, there's just kind of a sexy lioness quality to them, but they're passionate, they're sexy, they're magnetic is what they are in their like sensuality and sexuality, even though Leos tend to be more refined because they're very, they're dignified, there's royalty, there's a little bit of standoffish energy with a Leo, but when they love and when they're passionate, you get the full light, the full roar of that energy. So I love that it's kind of like poking through the clouds here with Mercury and then Venus and then the sun coming into Leo while we've still got Cancerian energy. I think it's such a sweet combo. So have some fun this month. And what does your fun look like for the next couple of months? What are you enjoying these days? Leo is about enjoyment. So just remember that. And I'll talk a little bit more about Leo as the month progresses. But we've also got a full moon, and this is really important, in Capricorn on the 21st of July. And it's at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And if you remember back to June 21st, right after the solstice, we had a Capricorn full moon at 1 degree of Capricorn. So we've got 2 full moons in Capricorn this year. Whenever we get 2 full moons in a row, and especially one at 1 degree and the one at the very last degree of the sign, 29 degrees, they're like cosmic karmic bookends, which means you get the very first, the baby energy of that sign, and then you get the full masterful expression of it in that anaretic degree. That's what the 29th degree is called. So it's kind of like we get a do-over or we get a review. And do you remember how I was talking about earlier in the podcast? Recognizing, recognizing, remembering, going back, putting puzzle pieces together. Well, that's what this new moon is great for. So when it comes to the 21st of this month and we have the second Capricorn full moon, absolutely go back to around the 20th, 21st, 22nd, those energies around the solstice and the full moon in Capricorn. What were you going through? What were your intentions? What were you releasing or letting go of or healing? What circumstances? What were you feeling? What were you struggling with? What were you excited about? Whatever it is, do your little assessment of life, your snapshot of life and your sentiments, and then say, what have I learned over the course of the last 30 days? And Capricorn is about maturity and responsibility. And with Capricorn, and I think at the 29th degree of Capricorn specifically, it's really about following through, taking and accepting personal responsibility, but following through on your personal goals and your ambitions. It's also, like I said, it's about recognizing maturity within yourself. Where have I matured? Where have I grown? Where have I evolved? And when I evolve, what needs to be let go of? What needs to be detoxed? What needs to be put to bed, put to rest? And I think this second full moon, this Capricorn full moon, is a really good moon for forgiveness. And that's why I brought forgiveness up earlier in the month, because Cancer energy has a way of really tenderly and intuitively and expansively, like 5D energy, open-heartedly, really creating a beautiful healing, like a karmic, soul, transcendent healing, and especially with all that Pisces energy I was talking about. So when you come to the 21st of this month and we have this full moon, you can experience, if you've done some healing work in that time, a lot of breakthrough, like feeling accomplished, feeling fulfilled, recognizing your significance, recognizing where you've matured, your growth. And because right after that, that's the 21st, then the sun will move into Leo. One of the things I love about understanding Leo energy is, of course, they're the lion, and there's a lot of pride in that energy. And there can be kind of that selfish pride, that arrogant pride, or self-righteousness, or that kind of energy. But then there can be this sense of dignity. And wow, look what I've accomplished. Wow, I'm really capable. Or wow, I've come a long way. Or wow, I'm so much more patient than I used to be. I had acupuncture this morning, and I had one of those moments on the acupuncture table. And we were talking about some health things that I've been walking through and healing, and I've really seen some incredible results. And he said, it's really impressive how patient you are with your body and your healing journey. And I was smiling, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm a very patient person. Now, I can be impatient in traffic. I can be impatient as I'll get out with my husband, not so much as I used to be. I am like a lot shorter to my little temper, or, okay, I don't want to go get those Cokes out of the refrigerator for you or that drink for you. You know, I was sharing that earlier. Of course, I can be like snappy and snap back, but I'm a lot less that way innately than I used to be. But when he said, you're very patient, I paused for a minute rather than just letting him say that and move on to the next thing. I acknowledged it within myself, and I smiled and I said, oh my gosh, Doug, like, thank you for saying I'm patient because you know what? I have become extremely patient in life, meaning I really do trust the universe and divine timing and whatever I'm healing. And if a healing journey has been exacerbated or prolonged, I'm still learning lessons and I'm healing stuff in my body or my mind or my spirit, and it's all interconnected. And I'm going to take the medicine, I'm going to do the homework, I'm going to do the prescription, and I'm going to do it intentionally and believingly that this is going to help with my healing. And it's not just about the physical body. For me, it's emotional and it's psycho-spiritual. And it is. And he says, you're very patient. And I said, thank you, because I am patient. And also, I think deeper than that, I have a trust that everything is divinely orchestrated. It's kind of like God is everything or God is nothing. That's what I heard when he said that. And he saw me practicing that. And I really appreciated it. And then in that moment, like I felt seen. I think for the first time ever, I'm like, oh, I've become patient, because I've not always been patient. I'm just saying to you, like, when someone says something and you're like, oh, wow, thank you for seeing that in me. And then I'm blown away that I could actually receive it and see it in myself and be amazed by that. So hopefully that's translating to you all. What I'm saying is that I had a breakthrough this morning of recognizing I am emulating my actions, my attitudes around things. Someone sees me as patient. And I guess that's because he's talking about people that come in there and they want an immediate fix. I need you to do this for me. I need you to fix it now. And if it's not fixed in a week, because that's just not my mentality. That's not the attitude I went in with. If I had a miraculous healing, that'd be amazing. But I was in there to do deep work. So anyway, I just want you to see where you can be seen. And that's Leo energy right there, is being seen and seeing yourself. It's both sides of the coin. Someone seeing you, valuing you, recognizing you, hearing you, however that shows up for you, and then you receiving it and knowing it and affirming it within yourself. And probably the highest expression of that is sovereignty, personal sovereignty, your truth, yourself, your knowing. And that's a high characteristic of Leo energy. So this month is so filled with psycho-spiritual transformative energy. And where you can find that is slowing down and being intentional, asking for help, communicating your feelings, and doing some intentional intuitive work. So whether journaling dreams, working with crystals, getting a reading, doing your numerology, like whatever tools that are working for you right now, using them consistently, and then prioritizing intimacy, quality time, intimate time, whether it is alone and with yourself or friends, family, children, pets, whatever that looks like for you. And if you've got a lot on your plate, like you're taking care of a sick parent, you're the sole breadwinner. You know, if you right now are just at your wit's end and you are exhausted, this month is kind of like a month where you say something's got to give. And it's not about so much a breakdown as it is saying, I can't do that anymore. Remember how I talked about kind of the self-pity layer and then it turns into anger? One of the things where I think anger can be the most fruitful, and I'm not talking about being unkind and projecting it onto someone else or it imploding within you, but where you get so hacked off about a scenario, a situation, someone's behaviors, the rut you're stuck in, life stacked against you, whatever it is, that you get so angry that you're like, no more. I will not allow this anymore. Like that, to me, is Phoenix rising from the ashes out of anger. When anger all of a sudden turns a corner and you say, this is no longer acceptable. Hell no. I have had so much breakthrough in that. And sometimes the breakthrough in that has come after plenty of temper tantrums and behaviors and attitudes and actions where I've had to make amends and I have been just a tornado. So that part I recognize, but I can get so twisted off about something, and then all of a sudden there's this clarity, this point of clarity where I say, oh, that's not going to fly anymore. I'm not here for that. Oh, no. And then it gives me the impetus and the ambition to take new action, to change the path, to change the trajectory, to change my behavior. There's something in this month that has an element of not only the turning point, but this sense of change and then the direct action to take it. And last but not least, I'll mention Chiron, the asteroid that orbits between Saturn and Uranus, is retrograding on the 26th, and it's in Aries. And Aries being a fire sign, Leo, the sun, by that time we've got all this fire energy up in the sky, in the cosmos. Watch out for crippling self-doubt. With Chiron standing still in Aries, the wounded healer that brings up wounds, and it's in Aries, which is all about the self and your individuality, your mighty I am, which is so important this year astrologically, and then also with the energy of the 8 numerology. You may get some delusional thinking around that time of, I'm an imposter, or I'm just never going to be able to do this. So watch out for the never, or this always happens, or I'm always stuck here, or nothing's going to change. No, I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. Those kinds of broad strokes that are like, meh, it's just how it is. I'm giving up. That kind of energy, watch out for that. That is definitely the energy playing tricks on you to try to get you to say, oh no, I'm not listening to that devil on my shoulder. Oh, shut up. It's like flick it off your shoulder and laugh at it and say, you know what? I am talented, or I am capable, or maybe I'm struggling right now, but it's because I haven't hit the breakthrough yet and the resources haven't come or the ideas haven't come. What am I learning in this? What am I learning right now? And how can I become resourceful and resilient? That is important. So this month, July, enjoy yourself and don't take yourself too seriously, because a lot of the things that we've talked about are very deep and intuitive and about self-awareness and nurture, but be sure to play and to laugh and to be silly and to lighten up, because your body and your energy, in order to invite in more light, there's this opportunity to invite in more ease, the ease of life. And when the universe doesn't feel easy and we're not as cognizant of the ability to cultivate ease, because we're kind of in survival mode at times. So it's like, can I just set an intention that today is easy? That is the kind of energy where it's like, oh, okay, I get to read a good book tonight. Or I get to just sit down and my kids are swimming in the pool and I'm just going to talk on the phone to my best friend for a little bit and enjoy myself. Like, where can you find just easy at home in your own skin? That's where your magic is this month. That's where the breakthrough is. I hope you can cultivate that. Okay, everyone, here's to July. Here's to the turning point of the year. Be well.
A new season of Bridgerton is here. And with it, a new season of Bridgerton, the official podcast. I'm your host, Gabby Collins, and this season, we are bringing fans even deeper into the ton. Watch season 3 of the Shondaland series on Netflix. Then fall in love all over again by listening to Bridgerton, the official podcast, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to catch a new episode every Thursday.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning weekly podcast dedicated to personal development. Whether you're looking for ways to shift your mindset or seeking more fulfillment in your life, we've got you covered. Join me as we dive into captivating stories and research-backed ideas that have empowered me and others to lead lives with more clarity and intention. Everyday Better, making growth an everyday practice. Listen to Everyday Better on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
From LinkedIn News, I'm Jessie Hempel, host of the Hello Monday podcast. In my 20s, I knew what career success looked like. In midlife, it's not that simple. Work is changing, we are changing, and there's no guidebook for how to make sense of it. Start your week with the Hello Monday podcast. Listen to Hello Monday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.